Excuse me. Ladies and gentlemen, it is now 6 p.m. on the 19th of September, 2024, and it is the time and place of the Ada County Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. We extend our welcome to those persons here today, as well as anyone joining us online, although I don't believe there's anyone online. I will begin with a roll call of the commissioners. I believe we excuse Commissioner Blitman for today. Commissioner Birch.
Here.
Commissioner Retzlaff.
Here.
Commissioner Wickstrom.
Here.
Commissioner Colson.
Here.
Commissioner Murphy.
Here.
I am Commissioner Scott, and I will be conducting this meeting this evening. Now, in order for the commission to conduct the hearing in an orderly manner, the following procedures have been established for the hearing of each individual application. Planning staff will present the application in the form of a staff report, which includes conditions of approval. The commissioners may ask questions of the staff to clarify their understanding of the application. The applicant will then be given 15 minutes to present their proposal and respond to questions from the commissioners. After that, public testimony will be taken by anyone wishing to speak in the room. You're limited to 3 minutes for each speaker. If you're giving testimony, you'll be called to the podium, and you should begin by clearly stating your name and address for the record. Any person wishing to testify, whether you're here or anyone who signed, you could have signed up online or signed up in the back there, and you will be allowed to testify. Let's see, we don't have anyone online. The staff will be called back after the public testimony to provide clarification on information given and give answers to the commissioners as well. And then the applicant will be brought back up, given 5 minutes for rebuttal. And once the rebuttal is concluded, the public hearing portion is closed. The commissioners will discuss the application, motions will be made, and the commissioners will vote on the motion regarding the application. I ask in the audience, just so we can move this along quickly and not waste everyone's valuable time this evening, if you could just refrain from talking over each other during the meeting. Please don't shout, don't name call. Another thing is clapping. If someone has a great testimony, we understand, please refrain from clapping. And we'll go ahead and get started with the public hearing, or with the planning and zoning meeting. If no one opposes, I think we can probably bump the third item up, and we can talk these tables one right after the other. Is that fine with the commission? All right, so we'll go ahead and start off with item number 1 under unfinished business. This is item 2023-0106-ZC-DA-S-VAC-PR. Gary McAllister. The staff recommendation on this one is to table it to the October 10th, 2024 Planning and Zoning meeting. Do I have a motion from one of my commissioners?
Mr. Chairman?
Commissioner Retzlaff.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to table the applicant, the project number 2023-01060-ZC-DA-S-VAC-PR to October 10th, 2024.
Thank you, Commissioner Retzlaff. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Colson. We'll go ahead and vote on the table since there's really not any discussion here. All those in favor of tabling to the October 10th meeting say aye.
Aye.
And I also say aye. Motion carries. We'll go ahead and move now to item number 3, the other tabled item, so we can just get that out of the way. This is item number 2024-01215-DA-ZC-S. This is Calkins Creek subdivision. Staff recommends table to the October 10th, 2024 meeting. Do I have a motion from one of my fellow commissioners?
Mr. Chairman?
Commissioner Retzlaff.
Yes, I'd like to table project number 202401215-CZDAS, Calkins Creek subdivision, until October 10th, 2024.
Thank you, Commissioner Retzlaff. Do I have a second?
Second.
Commissioner Wickstrom seconded. Go ahead and move to a vote on that. All those in favor of tabling to October 10th say aye.
Aye.
I also say aye. The motion carries. All right, we'll go ahead and move on to new business. It looks like our first item up is 2024-01642-CPA, Ada County Development Services, and we look to Mr. Moore for the staff report.
Hi, Mr. Chair, Commissioners, Brent Moore with Ada County Development Services. Before you is a comprehensive plan text amendment to adopt the 2024 Capital Improvement Plan and Development Impact Fee Study for the Whitney Fire Protection District. So the Commission did review similar proposals for the Eagle Star and North Ada County Fire and Rescue Districts at your hearing last month. It is requested that Ada County adopt the plan and implement the associated development impact fees for unincorporated areas of the Whitney Fire Protection District to account for the anticipated capital funding needed to accommodate future growth within the district. Over the next 10 years, the study anticipates an increase of 2,267 households and 335,000 square feet of non-residential floor area within the district's boundaries. So here's a summary of the application process for comprehensive plan text amendment. We did transmit to public agencies, issued a public service announcement, and published 2 notices in the newspaper. After your recommendation tonight, we'll repeat that process again before taking it to the Board of County Commissioners for a final decision.
Shift.
And here's a map of the Whitney Fire Protection District. You can see it covers areas to the southwest and southeast of Boise. So the proposed impact fees tonight would be charged on new construction within the district boundaries to help cover any capital costs needed to serve that construction. And here's an overview of the district's 10-year growth-related needs, which will include a new fire station, a new fire engine, and a new water tender, which is a truck that transports water. And here are the new impact fees, which the study determined would need to be charged on new development within the district in order to mitigate growth-related capital costs. So different amounts are proposed by building type based on their projected impact to the district. So the higher amounts are uses the study found require more calls for service from the district. And no concerns or comments in opposition have been received. And as detailed in the findings, staff finds the application to be in conformance with state statute and Ada County Code, and is recommending the commission recommend approval to the Board of County Commissioners. Additionally, the Ada County Development Impact Fee Advisory Committee also reviewed the application and recommended approval. And then just the note at the bottom, legal did ask it be specifically noted that this hearing to amend the fire district portion of the comprehensive plan is also a hearing pursuant to Idaho Code Section 6782063 to consider approval of the new capital improvement plan, just to show it complies with Idaho statute regarding capital improvement plans. So, with that, that concludes my presentation, and I will stand for any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. Do the commissioners have any questions for staff? Seeing no questions for the staff, I'll invite the applicant to come forward. Please state your name and address and offer your presentation.
Mr. Chair, there.
Oh, sorry, my bad. This
For the
is you
applicant, I
guys.
don't believe the consultant came tonight.
No, I got you. Yeah, we had a consultant last time, so I just didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, no consultant this time.
All right, cool. All right, well, are there any additional questions now that they don't have any further testimony? All right. Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to comment on this item? Seeing none and none signed up as well. We'll go ahead and there's no applicant rebuttal, obviously, unless you have anything more you want to add.
Nothing else to add, just my presentation will be added as an exhibit to the record, but nothing else to add.
Okay. Then we're now ready to close the public testimony portion of this meeting with respect to this item. I open up the floor to the commissioners to make a motion in favor or against this item and discussion amongst the commissioners.
Mr. Chairman?
Commissioner Retzlaff?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion based upon the findings of fact and conclusions of law contained herein and testimony from the public hearing. The commission recommends approval of project number 202401642-CPA.
Thank you, Commissioner Retzlaff. We have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Commissioner Whitstrom. We have a motion and a second. Do you want to speak on your motion, Commissioner Retzlaff?
Sure. I think this is pretty self-explanatory. I think compared to the ones we did last month, the cost between the single-family dwelling and the retail are closer in number. And I do understand that this is looking out, projecting 10 years in the future. And we have grown and we're expecting to grow much more here in the Treasure Valley. So I think that this needs to be paid in this manner instead of raising taxes on the constituents that already live here. So I think this is something that is necessary. And we did have a bad fire year this year, so I think we have to look to the future and plan for that.
Thank you, Commissioner Retzlaff. Commissioner Wickstrom, do you have anything to add?
Not too much, just that they are looking for impact fees to pay for the future development, and this is doing that, so
Thank
agree
you.
with.
Any additional comments from the commissioners? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and move to a vote. All those in favor of this say aye.
Aye.
Also say aye. Any say nay? Seeing none, the vote carries in favor of the motion, and it has been approved. All right, moving on to our next item. This is item number 2024-01209-ZC-DA-S-PR London Bridge subdivision. And we look to Ms. Owens, I believe. Am I on? Yes.
Oh, did I jump ahead of you here?
Yeah, you're,
I'm sorry about
no
that. I
cuts.
thought I gave you the last item, so. Get out of the way. My apologies.
Okay, no worries. Gotcha. We will wait on Leon for later, and Ms. Owens will present.
Okay, good evening, Mr. Chair and Commissioners. I am going to bring something up to the dais real quick. We have a public comment that was not included in the late exhibit memo, but it was received prior to the deadline.
Okay.
Thank you for reviewing that. That is going to be added to the record. It falls along a lot of the same comments that we've already received on this application. So the applicant did come up to me just now and ask that we do table this item to the November 7th hearing, just because they have some questions with the engineering of the private road that they want to work out between Ada County's engineer and their engineer that they've hired to work on this regarding the slope of that private road over the access that goes over the bridge. So hopefully you've had opportunity to look at some of that. They'd like to table it. So I think the request now would be that you hear an opportunity to table this to the November 7th hearing.
Would that be coming from us as a staff recommendation to table as well, or are you guys even allowed to do that?
So I wouldn't make a recommendation on this now. It's just what has been requested by the applicant. So my recommendation was approval, but we'll table it and hear it
Okay.
at a later date if that works for you.
So, okay,
Is there a date that they were looking for?
November 7th.
November 7th, okay, sorry.
Okay, so I see there's a lot of people in here with the applicant request to table for additional findings. We'll discuss that and bring a motion and everything forward, but just, I know a lot of you were wanting to speak on this, so if we table it, it likely would be till the November 7th, correct? Okay. All right, we'll go ahead and, Commissioner Burchett.
Yes, Chairman Scott, because I am somewhat familiar with the project and know some of the people that have been involved, particularly on the opposition side, I'm recusing myself from any involvement with respect to voting on this project to avoid any appearance of impropriety.
Okay. With regard to that, he can stay here, right? Or is he, okay. All right. Understand fully. Thank you for bringing that up, Commissioner Birch. All right, so with that in mind, apologize in advance, everyone, but we are going, I'm going to look to a commissioner to make a motion on potentially tabling this to the November 7th, 2024 Planning and Zoning.
Mr. Chairman?
Commissioner Retzlaff.
Yeah, I would make a motion that we go ahead and table till November 7th, 2024, project number 202-401-209-ZC-DA-S-PR.
Thank you, Commissioner Retzlaff. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Murphy has seconded. I have a motion and a second. No real need to discuss this unless you have a discussion you guys want to bring up on this. Seeing no discussion, we'll go ahead and take a vote. All those in favor of the table to November 7th, say aye.
Aye.
I also say aye,
And I abstain.
and Commissioner Birch abstains. The motion to table it till the November 7th carries. All of you that are in the room, again, I apologize, but this will be brought up on the November 7th Planning and Zoning. All right, moving on to item number 3 on our new business. It looks like we have item 2024-01215-DA-ZC. Oh, sorry, I'm reading the tabled one. Back it up. All right, item number 4 is 2024-01253-S-PR-V, Leon Acres subdivision, and I look to Mr. Letson for staff report.
Yes, thank you, Chairman, Commissioners. Sorry about all the running around. The item before you is a preliminary plat, a variance, and a private road. The applicant is Trevor Playstead. Hopefully I pronounced your last name correctly. It is a 4.8 acre site. It's only the portion on the east side of the highlighted area that's subject to the subdivision request. The portion on the left, I'll talk about a little bit later, it is owned by the applicant. But was included because it has a shared private road, so that's why we included it in this image. It's zoned Southwest Community Residential. It's surrounded by small lot residential to the south and west, and larger lot residential, as well as the New York Canal to the north. So here's a picture of the plat proposed by the applicant. It is a 2-lot subdivision, and so here's one of those lots. It has existing residences on it, and then this is the new future lot proposed with the subdivision. The RSW district requires a minimum of 2.5 acres per lot, and the subject property is 4.82 acres in size, so we're short on the allowed or the land area required for a 2-lot subdivision. That's why there's a variance attached to that, and that will be heard by the board, but it is also kind of germane to staff's recommendation on the project. It's served by a private road, proposed private road, West Falling Star Lane. This area hashed out here is also a part of West Falling Star Lane. It is a turnaround area for the fire department and also provides some access to this parcel to the west of the proposed subdivision. So in addition to needing 2.5 acres per lot for an RSW lot, you also need a 50-foot easement for a private road. The applicant's proposing a 30-foot easement. So again, this will all come into my recommendation slide at the end. Pictured here is some recent development that's occurred with the project. This is a one-time division process last year by the applicant to create this piece, which was a little over 2.5 acres in size, I think 2.52 acres. And this is Leon Acres subdivision, the boundary here. So in total, at the time of the original application for the one-time division, we had less than 7.5 acres, which would be required to create 3 buildable lots. That's what the applicant's proposing to do. They have achieved that with this one here, and Leon Acres subdivision was determined to be its own buildable lot as well, but again, only 4.8 acres in size, which again is why staff has the recommendation you're about to see and why the applicant has requested a variance, which is the subject of the board's ultimate review and approval. In terms of agency comments, really nothing terrible here. All things to be expected with a small lot subdivision. Building official had no objections other than just making sure everything's permitted or new construction is permitted. Our long-range planning team found it to be in compliance with the Boise Comprehensive Plan. The health district required their standard application, et cetera, for new septics. Ada County engineer had some comments concerning water. They are recommending all homes connect to Veolia water if possible, just given some groundwater issues in the area. If not, then they've made a recommendation that new wells be 250 feet deep due to some, again, falling groundwater and just groundwater quality issues. The highway district had no concerns. They're not requiring any improvements for the adjacent streets. They are going to approve the ultimate driveway location for the proposed private road. Whitney Fire District had some general comments about fire turnaround areas, access to the site, fire hydrants, and addressing. Boise Public Works made it clear that their sewer is not available to the site, so it would be dependent upon septic. And then the City of Boise Planning Department requested an easement be established adjacent to the New York Canal for a future pathway. I'll show you where that's located. So here is the New York Canal. And as you're aware, Boise is trying to establish a lot of pathways along existing canals in the area. And so to further their effort, they've asked that easement be provided by the applicant in the event it's ultimately approved. So I will say staff has a recommendation of denial tonight. In the event that we went with a recommendation of approval, I would need to revise findings to reflect conditions subject to what our different agencies have requested. We did not receive any comments from the public. And in terms of the findings for the project, so as mentioned before, we find it to be in compliance with the comprehensive plan for Boise. We do not find it to be in compliance with the subdivision section of our code based on the fact that it does not meet the dimensional standards for the Southwest Community Residential District. For private roads, we also found it to not be in compliance based on the issue of a 50-foot easement being required versus the 30 proposed by the applicant. That second one certainly could be conditioned to require a 50-foot easement, so then they would be in compliance with the private road standard, but as it exists right now, it doesn't comply. And then, as I mentioned before, the variance request will be heard by the board. So in conclusion, staff is recommending denial of the project. And just as a reminder, you are a recommending body to the board on this project. So stand for any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Letson. Do any commissioners have any questions on this project for staff?
Mr. Letson? Oh, I'm sorry. No, you're good. So really what's holding this up is the easement size, the 30 versus 50 and the 2.4 acres? Those are the major two issues that you see?
Yeah, Chairman Commissioner Murphy, that's right. So again, the easement for a private road inside an area of city impact needs to be 50 feet wide versus 30. Again, I think that's something that could be conditioned by this group and the board, and it wouldn't be hard for them to comply, but I'll let the applicant speak to that easement width. It's probably the bigger issue of not having enough land area to support the two lot development. And I know this group has seen those in the past, and honestly, if it hadn't been for the one-time division that was processed last year to create the issue, I'd probably have a different recommendation here, but we were literally just sitting, someone has created the problem here pretty close to making the application, and so that's why, unlike a 30 or 40-year-old piece that's kind of passed through multiple hands, who knows how it got created, because you guys do see a lot of those projects as well. This one, it's a pretty short point A to B in terms of how we got to the problem that doesn't allow the two-lot subdivision. So that's why staff has this recommendation. So.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Colson?
So I'm looking at this and looking at the surrounding area and the subdivision that is obviously given it egress or access to. Are they on city services and everything else like that?
Are you referring to this aerial here,
Yeah,
Commissioner
yeah,
Colson?
because the canal, there's no crossing the New York Canal, so their access is right there. And so my question is I'm assuming they have city services.
Yeah, so the lots proposed, all the parcels here are on individual septic. They're not on Boise sewer. But everything else west and south is. And this is, again, one of those kind of southwest Boise properties that there was a period of time when Boise was saying yes to connections, saying yes to developments, even though they hadn't annexed the property. So those all came in pre the sewer policy that's in place today. And so now that we have that sewer policy in place from Boise, they're not allowing connections for new development like this.
Okay, so one other question then. Was it the applicant that created the issue? Or was this a piece that was bought later on after it was split?
In terms of the one-time division and the,
Yes, sir.
yes, the applicant did apply for the one-time division, and that was approved last year.
Okay.
And so now they've also made the application for the Leon Acres subdivision. So,
Okay. Thanks.
all right.
Any additional questions for staff?
Hi, Leon. So with the Boise sewer moratorium, is this how long do they expect it to last, or do you even know? Is there any end in sight, or?
Yeah. There's been discussions about changing the sewer policy to open up development in the area. That would certainly help the applicant because he could then request a zone, like an R1 zone that would allow a 1 acre lot. And, and then we would have a much different situation here. Easy to create two lots out of a 4.8 acre piece if you have a minimum lot size of 1 acre. But yeah, there's no change to that right now. There's a lot of moving parts. We've had discussions with the city, but yeah, nothing's officially changed yet, so.
Thank you.
Any additional questions from the commissioners?
Yeah, I got one. Mr. Chair. What other options do they have with this piece of dirt? I mean, if you're looking at the surrounding areas, I'm just looking at the surrounding areas. I'm looking at it's closed by the New York Canal. I live by the New York Canal. I know how much easement they're really proud of and want. I'm looking at this like, what's their options outside of all these guys having 1 acre, I assume these are all 1 acre lots, or if they're on their own stuffs, that we got a rogue piece of dirt laying out there that someone wants to do with it, and
Yeah.
now where are we at?
Commissioner Colson, I think you've just told the story of Southwest Boise. I mean, it's a hodgepodge of who has sewer, who doesn't, who can develop now at a certain density and who can't. This is, like you said, kind of a remnant piece that doesn't have access to sewer, but it's surrounded. Stuff on Latigo might even have sewer. I'm not certain. It looks to be right on the edge of being big enough to sustain a septic, but I'm not certain. So yeah, I mean, you're right. The sewer policy of Boise has struck again, I guess, when it comes to development requests and what somebody can do with something. Ideally, this property gets services and is annexed into Boise and probably develops in a similar density to what's south and west of it, but the options don't exist right now due to lack of services, so.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question for Leon. In regards to septic, has there been any approval by Central District Health or anybody like that, or even a denial or a refusal of any kind?
Yeah, Chairman, Commissioners, no, all agencies actually have had no problem with the request. It's simply a planning issue. In our zoning code, we have simple standards that have to be met for subdivision requests that say you got to meet the minimum dimensional standards for the zone that you're subdividing in. So they can't meet that, obviously, which is why they've requested a variance, and again, that'll be heard by the board ultimately. But yeah, no, the Central District Health has their standard, if you want to do a septic here, you've got to come talk to us about where that's going to be and how it's going to work, but nothing's saying they can't do it. And yeah, all other agencies have said yes as well, so.
Any additional questions?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Wickstrom?
Mr. Letson, so is it difficult to get out of that, the Southwest Community Residential District? Is it looking like they could just ask again for a rezone of that at some other point? I guess they would need the infrastructure to come in there, the sewer and whatnot.
Yeah, Chairman, Commissioner Wickstrom, there's another section of our code that would come into play if they were to seek a zone change, that if you try to get below RSW in terms of lot size, you have to have urban public facilities available to the site. RSW lots are kind of the unicorn of Ada County. They are the smallest lot allowed without connection to services. It's 2.5 acres in size. You guys don't see a lot of these. We see a lot more RUT, which is the 5-acre stuff. And that's in areas of city impact across the valley. RSW is specific to Boise. And again, it speaks to, hey, sewer's out here. It's probably coming to you at some point. It's a holding zone of 2.5 acres in size. But with the sewer policy that came into play and kind of not being able to fully do development, because a lot of these are like infill lots that would, again, we're looking at lot sizes that are probably a 1/4 acre in size south of here. We would probably see a development pattern very similar to what's happened south and west of the project.
Any additional questions for staff? Seeing none, then I'll go ahead and invite the applicant forward to present. Please state your name and address.
Hello, Commissioners. My name's Trevor Plaisted. I live on this property here at 8170 West Falling Star Street, and I was the one submitting the application. Thanks, Leon, for everything you did, getting all this put together. I appreciate it. And they did a really thorough job, and I appreciate him looking into it, and he was a pleasure to work with. I don't have a ton to add. I think most of the questions have been, or most of the details have been covered. I think I'd like to add just a couple quick comments. So this lot size last year, before we completed the one-time division, was in total 7.4 something. So we were going to hit this inroads eventually, no matter which route we took, whether we went through a one-time division or whether we went to a 3-lot subdivision. Today, it was all going to end up coming to a variance because each piece of rural Southwest was going to have to be divided, and eventually something of that portion of that large parcel was going to end up being less than 2.5 acres. So that is, like we've talked about and have mentioned, that comes kind of at the crux of this entirety, of this application is, can we get that variance approved to a 2.4 lot size where 2.5 is the minimum required? In my variance application, I do provide some reference properties within a mile of ours, which are RSWs. There's 6 that I could find, and I didn't do an entire Ada County scrub, but there are 6 properties of RSW that are at 1 acre or less. And so I'm using that as kind of kind of an item, just of reference to say that it's not unusual or it's not unheard of. This wouldn't be a first request of its kind, and I think we're trying to meet the spirit as best we can of that minimum lot size without going to excessive extremes. It ends up being about a 4% deviance from the minimum standard, and wish I could find 0.1 acres somewhere to meet that minimum, but we're close. With respect to the second request, which is the change of a 50-foot easement on our private road to 30 feet, we do understand the spirit of that. I think it's intended to make sure that we could have long-term planning for future development. But as you can see, we are landlocked. There's no future development that could be needed, which is why we're requesting instead of 50, because it significantly cuts into that existing lot with the residences there, the easement. We just want to pull that back to give them a little bit of relief, 20 feet of relief, so that we don't have to encroach on that property or where we live too much, and put it back to something a little bit more manageable for something that has no future, for any large public roads to go in there like a 50-foot would try to retain and preserve for future considerations, but that just isn't going to happen here in this case. In part of this proposal, and we recognize that there is a real condensed high-density housing around us. That is certainly a future potential, but we actually had some very interesting conversations with our neighborhood meeting, and we are also trying to balance the feedback that we got from the neighbors. They don't want high-density housing there. So this proposal also for a 2-lot split is as we try to balance the needs of the comprehensive plan and the Boise impact area, along with some neighborhood input that they don't want to see that go to R4, R8, and would prefer to keep it low density as is practical, so that they can retain some semblance of privacy, especially those neighbors that are adjacent to our south property line, who seem to be the most vocal in this. So I'm going to stand in for them and say we're trying to do the best we can to keep the nuisance and hazards and any other concerns that they had that were brought up in the meeting, and the meeting notes have been included in the application. But we're doing the best we can to balance their desires and wishes and be friendly in the neighborhood. Trying to think, I don't have much else, but I'm more than willing to take any questions or feedback, and we can see where the conversation goes from here. But that's kind of the summary of my additional comments to what Leon's already presented. Again, I appreciate everything he's shared with us today.
Thank you, sir. Do any of the commissioners have any questions for the applicant? Commissioner Birch?
I have a couple of
Renslow.
questions. Thank
Go
you.
ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. How many people attended your neighborhood meeting? I mean, I'm looking at the map, and you have a lot of neighbors. I'm just kind of curious how many people actually showed up. Do you remember?
It was over 20.
Over 20?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't remember the next time. I think like 24 to 29, somewhere in there, but somewhere between 20 and 30 people. I would add, and I did actually forget to do this, I do have with me, and maybe we can add this as official additions to the application. I was able to go around and speak to some neighbors that didn't attend, and I was able to get letters from them in email form in support of this. So I have that. I can add that. They are. You want me to give them to you?
Chairman, Commissioners, we have options for that. We could have those introduced into the record here at the hearing. The record remains open between here and the board as well, but it's whatever the
No, yeah.
pleasure of the commission is. So-
addresses on top of who sent
Okay. So yeah, I can read these into the record. It's a letter of support or non-objection to the project, 6180 South Astronomer Avenue. Nicole West, we have another letter, 6219 South Lone Tree Avenue from Alex Kuzmenko. And we have another one from Dr. Luis and Tiandra Knapp at 6241 South Lone Tree Avenue that have no objections. And then we have another one from a Mr. Joe Keller at 6274 South Moon Place, also saying no problem. So
Okay, I have another one.
Do we have to, is that like a voting thing, or just we're good? to
in
add?
terms of accepting this into the record, no,
Yeah.
any item, like my presentation will be a part of the record. So I've kind of more formally introduced these to the
Okay,
record.
I just
So.
want to make sure. All right,
I have another question.
go ahead.
Hi. Okay, next question. Now, you said you gave examples of 6 other properties that were similar to yours, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Now,
Well,
do you-
similarly zoned.
Similar, okay, so other than that, other than being similarly zoned, do they have the same water issue as you do, or they don't, or you don't know?
I don't know. The only property that I'm even remotely familiar with is right across near the point of our southeast corner, just across the way is one of those, and they did attend our meeting. Now, I know them, but again, I come back to, no, I'm not real familiar with the water situation, but I do believe most of that other side, the north side of the canal on the other side of our property, most of those are well and septic. But again, I don't know the details. I'm only speculating because just of some research that I've done recently, but I don't know the specific details of those properties. I don't
Okay,
know.
and so last year when you were here, last question, sorry, gentlemen, last question. When you were here last year and you had the one-time split, was there any misunderstanding about having a one-time variance given to you?
From a misunderstanding from me? No, not at all.
Okay.
Yeah, we totally understood it at the time. The reason we did the one-time division because it was quick and easy. But if we'd had gone through the subdivision process, it would have been lengthy, drawn out, and a lot more involved. And so we did that first. That's the parcel we're building our house on. So we wanted to kind of get that project moving, and while we could then deal with the rest of the subdivision of the remaining acreage later. And so that's kind of been our plan the whole time.
Okay,
So
thank
That's
you.
why we did that, yeah.
Okay.
Any additional questions, Commissioner Birch?
Trevor, how long have you owned the property?
A year and 5 months, 4 months, yeah.
And you're currently living on the property or adjacent? Okay.
Yeah.
And a couple of other questions. What is the magic of the 30-foot for the roadway as opposed to 35 feet, 40 feet? If
I would
somebody
love
said-
to make it 20 feet. I mean, I think narrower is preferable to me, just to leave that existing property avoiding to have to deal with as much easement as they practically could. I don't think there is a magic recipe other than what's recommended and required. I know 50 feet. I learned for the first time that 50 feet was actually a requirement after Leon's research and came back, and that surprised us because I thought 30 was going to be what we needed to satisfy. So I'm just hoping to keep it at the 30 we were thinking rather than the 50 that was proposed by the planning.
Chairman,
board.
Commissioners, I do have a follow-up comment on the 30-foot as well. So we do have an allowance for alternative designs within our code for private roads, and if this commission thought, again, if you are considering an approval, rather than adding a condition that it be expanded to 50 feet, you could suggest an alternative design be approved to allow the 30 feet. I do think Mr. Place is right, there's not a likely roadway connection here in the future, so the purpose of the 50-foot inside of areas of city impact is to preserve areas for future public roadways if they can be achieved. And again, to Mr. Playstead's point, I don't really see a public road going anywhere here. So just keep that in your back pocket as something to consider if you're considering recommending approval of the project, so.
Last question. Trevor, who wrote the meeting notes that are part of the record? Because there's interesting stuff in there. I mean, like it says, for example, property line discrepancy with a neighbor, asking for a variance from 2.5 to 2.4. What would happen if property discrepancy was, I mean, did you compile those notes? And if you did,
Handwriting is much better than I would do. It was my beautiful wife sitting back here.
okay. And
She
that was
knows.
from comments that were made at the public meeting, is that
Yeah,
correct?
that's correct. If I can take a minute to clarify what those notes meant. When I presented this layout and this preliminary plat to my neighbors, I mistakenly, and it threw the whole meeting, threw a significant portion of the meeting off because I misunderstood where my actual property line, when I was looking at the map. I had thought it went to the far side of the canal, and so some of the other side's neighbors were having that point of conflict, like, no, it's not the far side, it's to the middle of the canal. And it took me a while to realize that, oh, you're right, I misrepresented when I was drawing my line, and it went over their boundaries, and that's where the source of that was. So it was really just an administrative oversight on my part in the meeting. It's not a real boundary dispute, it's just where I happened to draw it on the map, and I made that mistake. So I was kind of at fault for doing that.
Got it. Thank you.
Any additional questions, Commissioner Cole?
Yeah. No, I totally understand on the lot line, the understanding of the line. It is always down the center of canal. I mean, I realize that myself. You know, and I could see their concern when they think, you know, even though it's an bit massive easement for the New York Canal, it really isn't your land anyways, unfortunately. Again, my question is, okay, what's your plan if you do get this approved, what's your plan for the other two lots? That if it does split and the house that you're living in now, you say you're building your new house, on the parcel that you did the one-time split, what's your plan for the parcel that will split into another 2.4?
So, hopefully I answer your question. I'll walk
Sure.
through each one of these. On the west parcel, that's where we plan to build our single-family residence, our private home. The middle lot will stay the same. The residence will stay there. All the structures are going to remain there. We would be happy to sell that. We hope that we can find a good family to move in there. We'd love to do that. On the east portion, the lower triangle piece, we would also like to sell that as well. We have some friends of ours who are pretty interested, and so we have prospects, but we just want that to be developed and turned into a single-family residence and somebody enjoy the land, and we have great neighbors, and we can have barbecues together.
Okay, and you may not know this answer, but Block 14, Fiddler's Glen, subdivision number 4, which would be this small parcel up north to the left, you won't be able to see it on that one, it'll actually have to go to another slide.
Okay.
It's top of that very red corner.
The top left corner.
Well, you'd come down and there's nothing there, there's no access to that.
Right here?
Yes, sir.
Oh, that's a little green space. I think there's a walking path that goes back to there. It's maintained. I don't know if the neighborhood HOA considers that a park officially, but it looks to be mowed, and it has very well manicured grass and trees that are there. But that's the extent of I know about that. We don't use that.
Okay, no, it's just something I'm gathering until at the end of this, so thank you.
Yeah, you bet.
That's all I got.
Any additional questions from commissioners? Seeing none, we thank you for your presentation.
You bet.
We'll go ahead and turn the time over for public comment. On the list, I see a Tory Plaisted.
I'll decline. He wrote my name.
Okay. Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to speak on this matter? Go ahead, come on forward and state your name and address for the record.
My name is Louise Lulai. I live at 6235 South Universal Avenue. So I'm adjacent to the very east parcel end of that wedge back there. I just want to point out that I've lived there 8 years. I'm going to say about 5 years ago, the canal sprung a leak. Now there's that land and then my big backyard. And I call the New York Canal, and I walk over on the canal every so often. So there's been 2 separate areas that have had some pretty serious leakage. One of it lasted for 2 years, and this is before these people owned that land. So I'd gone to the New York Canal about it, and they had said, well, it's been doing that for the last 15 years, so we're not going to, is it on your property? And I'm going, no, but it's headed to it. So I'm getting a little nervous. And so it took about 2 years and it wound up in my property. So it came across that end wedge, slow but sure. They did a little bit of shoveling, which was a joke, because I'm going, that's one heck of a canal. You're going to take a little trench through here and say that's going to fix the problem. There's that area of the land way back in there. If you are walking in it, and that doesn't show up on the map, you can tell where that section has been worked before. with some concrete, rock, whatever, that they've dumped in there to try to alleviate. My concern would be, buyer beware, if you're gonna buy that parcel and build a house on it. That's all. I mean, because that is a big issue to me, and I thought, I'd like to point that out. I pointed that out to them at the meeting, that that would be my concern against possibly not a good idea. I know there's a lot of other laws that are there and one thing or another, but when it comes to a structure, that's serious. I come out of Montana, I had to deal with some flood issues up in that area. So I'm just going, be careful what you're going to turn it into. Okay? So I just wanted to share that, okay?
Does any commissioners have any?
Ma'am, I do. I have a question.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. So do you have any reason, are you for or against, or you're for these people, or what's your thought? I mean, they mediate the issue or what it may be. I mean, do you have an
Well, because
issue
of-
outside of that?
Okay,
Of why you
becau-
would not or would?
No, not really, other than that.
Okay.
I mean, it's land, it can get developed. But because of the conversations I had with New York Canal people, I started with one gentleman, it passed it up the line. It passed it up to the line. And so I wound up with the district manager of the canal, and he's the one that said, that has been an issue for the last 15 years. We're not going to do anything about it. Well, there it was. It was 2 years later, and part of it was because it hadn't reached my property. Well, it eventually reached my property, and it is seepage, but it's a trickle. Things start as trickles. And then I know since I walk over there, there was another one, and that was bigger, on up a side road, but still in that area of the canal, that's a weak spot. And to have a house structure go in there, I don't know where the chain of history goes for commissioners to make decisions over things unless somebody speaks up, because I don't think, it may well not be written down. Probably will be in the New York Canal records, but is that going to be accessed? I don't know the planning, the actual process for approval of structures being built here. All I know is that there's some that probably wouldn't be a good idea if you have a moisture problem coming in from a canal. That's, to me, pretty serious. And the integrity of the canal, age, may play a factor in this for a residence to be built next to it. I personally wouldn't touch it. It's like, no. Because there's going to be some really damages under houses. I owned a house in Montana that had some kind of a damage underneath. It wasn't from a leakage, it was just the way the thing was built, and they had to replace the stringers underneath. Selling that property even after that was a real bear, and I had to get approvals from different people that had been repaired properly and one thing or another. So when it comes to moisture getting underneath your house, that's a serious issue. And that's a small lot back there. So your parameters where that house is going to sit is going to be very close to that canal. It's like, I've got a big backyard, so by the time it gets to my house, I'm going to be okay. There's an issue, and I don't want to bring it up here, because it's like, okay, where does flood control issue come in here, or flood insurance type thing? Because when I was leaking, if that thing was to break loose, I'm going to get swamped, big time. But it's where I live, so, but now you're going to put another house closer to that canal? On that canal, and you're talking 20 feet in? I mean, I've kind of got to figure out where it's going to shove down that way in order to get a big enough piece of land to put it on there, because that tail end gets really narrow.
Gotcha.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay, so I don't know. Other than that, I just
All right,
wanted
thank
to,
you so much.
I just want to get it off my mind that it's like, no,
Okay, ma'am, thank you so
clear
much.
that
We appreciate your
there's some problems.
testimony. Is there anyone else in the audience? We thank you so much.
that was all I had. Okay.
Thank
Do
you.
Thank you.
Okay. If there's no one else, we'll go ahead and have staff stand for rebuttals if any staff, or if the commissioners have questions for the staff.
I got
Commissioner? Mr. Coulson?
Leon, so do they have water? Is Viola there?
Chairman Commissioners, yes, I believe Viola is in the area. I think
Okay.
most of the smaller lot development is served by Viola.
Perfect. All right. All right, I think that's kind of the end of
You'll
it.
get a chance to rebut, and you could address that during that time, too. So,
No, I think we're good, Leon. Thank you.
okay.
Any additional questions from Commissioner Wickstrom?
Yeah, Mr. Letson, so with the change in the private road, that'll meet the 250-foot frontage.
Yeah,
requirement.
Chairman, Commissioners, the issue is not with the length or actual width of the road suggested or proposed by the applicant, it's the easement width. Our private road standards have a requirement that an easement also be established for any private road. And inside of areas of city impact, it's 50 feet for the points I made earlier that a private road could eventually be converted to a public roadway. And so 50 feet is kind of a good size to make that possible.
I'm talking about frontage.
Yeah, no, it meets the frontage and access requirements. Yeah, so it'll be, won't have an issue with that.
Are there any additional questions from the commissioners? I do have one question, Leon, just with regard to what the last testimony said. Does the engineer go look at this when stuff starts getting built on it? The city or the county engineer?
Yeah, Chairman, Commissioners, there's a building permit obviously required. We don't normally require grading permits for small, single-family homes, grading or drainage permits. Our county engineer is always willing to look at issues if there's something raised by the neighbors or if the applicant themselves is kind of like, can you help me address this comment? At the end of the day, New York Canal probably would be the group that needs to take care of this. Yeah.
Yeah, that's my thought, considering this is a New York Canal problem. We don't really have, they're a private corporation. We have no control over them.
Yeah, we interact with them a lot, and we know that they are interested in tiling parts of the canal to keep water in the canal, but
Yeah. Are there any additional questions from the commissioners? Seeing none, thank you, Mr. Letson. We'll go ahead and move on to rebuttal. If the applicant would like to stand up and give a rebuttal, you'll have 5 minutes for rebuttal.
5 minutes? Yeah, I don't need much. I just really appreciate comments. We got great neighbors that are looking out for everybody, and I think that's good advice for anybody who lives along the canal is to keep a watch on their properties and make sure that that canal integrity is maintained. Good feedback and very mindful. I would like to address the comment by Commissioner Coulson. We do have, that property is serviced by Veolia. We do have an 8-inch sewer stub that sticks into the south end of the east property right against Falling, I can't remember the street. Actually, that is Falling Star Street. And we have water and sewer right there. So that is where the sewer stub, I think, is the most interesting one. That's where the stub exists. But as you all know, the moratorium prevents us from extending that to service the other properties. But they could eventually, in someday in the future, we can get water. Municipal water is accessible there. There's nothing preventing us from extending that to either of the properties that the existing one right now that runs on a well, we could extend municipal water there or even to the new property. And we recommend that. That's part of, I think we included that, but that's our recommendation is that anybody who buys that does connect to the municipal water for that reason, but they have the right to do whatever they want. So I don't have any other further comments then for a rebuttal. Thanks.
The commissioners have any questions?
Yes, sorry.
So you have no problem hooking up to water?
I don't, no,
It's required?
nope. I mean,
The issue you
we,
guys are having is the septic not hooking up to sewer because of the.
that's exactly right. Yeah,
So,
precisely.
all right. Okay, thank you. That's all I got.
Any additional questions? Seeing none, thank you, sir.
Thanks.
All right, well, we are ready to close the public hearing of the meeting with respect to this project, and I'll open the floor up to the commissioners. I'd like to see a motion in favor or against the project, and we'll invite a discussion from the commissioners.
Mr. Chairman. Yeah, this project, I think, looks, for me at least.
Commissioner Murphy, we're just looking for a
Oh, I'm
motion
sorry.
for right now. So
Sorry.
if you have a motion, please. go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the project. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
We have a second, a motion to approve and a second. Commissioner Murphy, would you like to speak on your motion?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. This piece of property here kind of fits the description of why we have variances. You know, it's not black and white life sometimes, and this is definitely a gray area, I believe. This is kind of an undue hardship of this piece of land, and I know where I live, it's 5 acres, but there are certain properties around me that are 4.6, 4.7, just because of the way it is, and this is so close to 2.5, I think it warrants an approval of that variance, especially because, you know, they're really not able to go to R1. The road at 30 foot makes sense because there's nowhere else to go except for pretty much it's a private driveway, even though it's a private road technically. So anyway, that's kind of my reasoning behind that. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Murphy. Leon, real quick, is he going to have to amend his to include that 30-foot? That implied?
Yeah, I think we'll have you restate a more formal motion.
Yeah, that's
Maybe
right.
before we take a vote, but if I'm going to help you guys summarize, or what I've heard from the motion so far is that you're okay with a 30-foot wide easement for the private road, and you're in favor of 2.4 acre lots in the new Leon Acres subdivision. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, so after the discussion, we'll just have to re-motion to include that for the formality of the record, so, okay. Commissioner Colson?
Yeah, here's my thing, looking at the property and knowing the canal and New York Canal District pretty well, with my own parcel. Looking at this and looking at further land use, you know, everybody's gonna be like, yeah, we're gonna divide it into, the final thing would be to divide it into smaller subdivision lots. It shows that this subdivision's not totally, you know, the homeowners are not necessarily wanting that. But by the time, even with that being said, by the time you're looking at truly where your buildable lot square footage is, you lose almost 50 to 60 feet off that center of that property line. So at the end of the day, they're really, maybe if it went to this smaller development later on and servicing, you might be adding 4 more houses, max. I mean, 4 houses, I don't even know if they get 4 more than the 3 here, you know? And so for me, I'm looking at it like, you got somebody that wants to do something with the property. They have no problem with Viola and taking services to it. The variance is most likely going to approved by the board. We don't really look at the variances. The other piece of it is, again, otherwise this piece of dirt's just going to sit there. The sewer systems, most of the time, Ada County, Central District Health. I can speak on Central District Health side of things. Normally, the smallest they allow nowadays is less than 2 acres, so it's most likely going to conform with what they want. I mean, they still have to get it approved. Sewer is not going to give them anything until they decide they want to. I got no neighbors complaining. I was thinking outside the box if another potential is that lot up there, which I expect is a common ground, you know, and maybe you could talk to the subdivision to get past that 2.5 split, see if they would let you purchase some of that dirt to allow that, and then also give them the easement right back to it, and it would all be conforming with Ada County. That's just my thought. But that's why I'm for it. I don't see much more that you can do with this piece, unfortunately, because that New York Canal is a barrier, and I'm not worried about what New York Canal, they would have to step up, in my opinion, but again, that's not for me to say. So those are the reasons why I'm for it.
Thank you, Commissioner Colson. Any additional comments? Commissioner Birch?
Yeah, I do have a question for Commissioner Lutzen, for Mr. Lutzen. Mr. Lutzen, are we the final deciding body, or if it is recommended for approval, Are we recommending approval to the Board of County Commissioners?
Yeah, Chairman, Commissioners, you are a recommending body, so the board makes the final decision on the project. So approval or denial, you're recommending either way.
Okay. And so everything that staff has said is 100% correct. In similar cases, if we've had a whole bunch of neighbors show up in opposition, then we have leaned toward denial. In this case, nobody has shown up in opposition, and at the meeting tonight, there has been presentation of letters in support. With that, I agree completely with everything that Commissioner Murphy and Commissioner Colson have said. This seems like a logical use of the property. I also appreciated the comments about the canal and the leakage from it. As somebody that lives adjacent to and down gradient from one of the canals, I know what the problems are with leakage, and I know what the problems are with ground squirrels burrowing into it and causing them to leak. And I also know how resistant canal companies can be from fixing the problems. But as was pointed out, I think by Commissioner Colson, it is the canal company's responsibility to fix it. And if they don't fix it, there are remedies, but those remedies usually involve taking them to court.
Thank you, Commissioner Birch. Any additional comments from the commissioners? No? All right, I just have a couple quick comments. First of all, thank you for coming and talking about the canal. Even though we aren't a body that deals with the canal specifically, it does make it into the record, and potentially the Ada County Commissioners can see it and potentially address it as a possible concern for constituents. So I do appreciate your feedback coming with that. I think the technicality, Leon's staff is always amazing, and the technicalities of the code are there, but I think we're kind of splitting hairs, and we're allowed to have a bit of opinion outside of the specific code. So I also agree with my fellow commissioners that have spoken. I think what happened is we all love a nice round number, 5 acres, split it into 2.5. It's weird when it becomes 4.8, and now because of that, we're putting a kind of a strange burden. This is a weird property that will never have anything happen to it. And again, just to echo, the overwhelming support from the neighbors does play a part in the decision here. And again, we're not the final body here. There is elected officials that will make their recommendation, and they will obviously take their constituents in their concerns in mind. But I also think that if we were talking like trying to cut it down to like an acre and a half or something, but we're talking about 0.1 per lot, I think I'm good with that for now. So I will probably be voting in support as well. Any additional comments? Commissioner,
I'm
you wanna say something?
only slightly torn on this, because it is a nice fill-in lot. It'd be nice to see that used for something besides empty dirt. I'm a little concerned down there at the tip of the triangle. You get down to where you start really losing a lot of utility. You get down to the end, and you might have over 2 acres, but your utility's down quite a bit. But that'll be for a buyer to decide if they want to use that or not. So by amending to say, setting a requirement of a 30-foot easement and accepting the smaller lot size, we're recommending that a variance be made.
Yeah, Chairman, Commissioners, it's kind of a tricky one where a variance that you can't really act on is necessary to make your recommendation work. Trust me, we've written lots of findings like that. It's not a problem. But yeah, I mean, you're kind of, I guess at this point, hinting to the board that a variance is appropriate here, given the constraints of the property, but it's ultimately their decision. And so, you're really only considering the preliminary plat and the private road.
Okay, thank you. Again, I was torn, but I believe I will vote in support of this application.
Thank you, Mr. Wickstrom. Any final comments? Okay, if there are no final comments, we'll go ahead and vote on the motion. Oh, wait, if you would like, Commissioner Murphy, please re-motion If you need, there's a script that comes, I'm not sure if you're aware, but there's a script if you want to help him out, Commissioner Colson, that can help you out, and then add the amendment of the 30-foot variance of that.
Don't we need to also include the lot size be the smaller easement plus the 2.4 lot size?
Here she goes.
He has to put approval, not denial.
We'd also have to table the motion for revision of finding of
Yeah,
fact.
eventually, that's what, we'll just vote it, and then
Yes,
we'll
but
table it.
instead of denial, you put approval. Right. And then add the 30-foot.
Mr. Chairman, can I make a motion?
Go ahead. It's the first day, that's all right.
Based upon the findings of fact and conclusions of law contained herein and the testimony from the public hearing, I make a motion to recommend approval of project number 202-401-253-S-V-PR, and to add an amendment for the 30-foot private road.
Thank you, Mr. Murphy. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
I have a second for Mr. Colson. Obviously, no discussion needs to be made now. We'll go ahead and take a vote on the motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And I also say aye. All those opposed say nay. So the vote passes. Now, just kind of a point of order here. We are going to have to vote to table this because we are going against the recommendations of staff. So we have to give them the time to change the findings, and then we approve it. It doesn't change what the outcome here was. It's still approved or recommendation of approval to the board. We just have to table it to let them. So this part, I just want you to be aware so you're not like, what's going on? All right, so can I get a commissioner to motion to table this
It would be October 10th.
to the October?
Mr. Chairman?
Commissioner Retzloff?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to table project number 202-401-253-S-V-PR to the October 10th, 2024 commission meeting.
Thank you, Commissioner Retzloff. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Commissioner Colson has seconded. All those in favor of the motion to table, say aye.
Aye.
And I also say aye. Does anyone say nay? The motion carries. So yeah, basically, you don't have to come back or anything. It's just, we just have to do that so they can revise their findings, so.
I can follow up with you as to next steps.
All right. So this concludes the portion of our meeting for projects. We thank everyone who has showed up and testified. Next agenda item is the minutes from the previous meeting. I don't remember what day it was, I'm sorry.
July,
You want to
or
make a
no,
motion?
August 15th, yeah.
You want to make the
Can
motion
I-
for the minutes?
Can I get a motion for approving the minutes from fellow commissioner?
Yeah, I'd like to approve the motion for the minutes from August 15th. Is that right?
Yep.
Yeah.
I got a motion, is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
And I also say aye. I see no, motion carries. Go ahead and turn it over to Leon for discussion of the
Yeah,
meetings.
give you guys a quick summary. We had a much longer agenda last night with the board than with you guys, but first item was a property boundary adjustment in the Hidden Springs area between two existing lots. That was tabled to October with the board. We had a time extension for a floodplain application that Boise State University's been working on for the Boise River at Intermountain Bird Observatory project. They're working on a kind of cool enhancement of that space, and also it has to be floodplain compliant. We also had a comprehensive plan amendment and a zoning ordinance amendment to update the Title IX agreement with CUNA for our area city impact agreement. You took action on this one. It was a changing the land use designation for a property out there on Cunamora Road from agricultural to industrial, so the board took action on that one. We also had a variance in a contractor's yard and a master site plan for conditional use master site plan. Wow, none of these words are coming out right. Conditional use master site plan and variance for a contractor's yard off of Highway 16 near Eagle. That one was approved. We had a preliminary plat, floodplain, and private road for the Duck Alley subdivision. You guys all heard that one. 5-lot subdivision close to South Channel of the Boise River. The board approved that as well. We had a variance and a property boundary adjustment for a property out on Franklin Road associated with the Butte Fence Company, is that right? They were picking up some property from a neighbor to the west and needed, that neighbor to the west needed to resolve a frontage issue in order to allow the property boundary adjustment to occur. So that was approved. We had a variance for a pool that was built in a setback. Unfortunately, it was completely built, and they didn't realize it until the end, and they didn't get caught until they came in for another permit for something else. And so, yeah, the board had to approve a variance for a pool in the setback. And,
Would they have, like, if they denied it, they'd have to fill that in?
or, yes, yeah. I mean, otherwise that or never get another permit for their property, basically. I mean, it's kind of complicated. We've never really seen it go that far, but that is theoretically how it could have played out, so. We also had approval of the development impact fees for sheriff, jail, coroner, and paramedics. So the board has approved the comp plan amendment for that, so that's exciting. I've been talking to all the other cities on approvals for that too, so a lot of work going into that project. We had a comp plan amendment for development impact fees for Eagle Fire. You guys heard that one as well. That one was approved. A similar comp plan amendment for Starfire. That one was approved. Again, these are all impact fee related. And then we had one for North Ada County Fire and Rescue that was also approved. So everyone's doing impact fees these days. And that's it. So stand for any questions.
Yeah, I have a question. So you still have Exton on here, and he crossed out, but I just want to make sure that's good. Like, you can-
We'll update the roster.
I just want to make sure him crossing out, because I want to.
Press him out. Yeah, he's actually working for the city of Boise now as a planner. So I don't know if you guys knew that. Yeah. He went to Canyon County, and then he got a job with City of Boise. So, yeah, just right down the street. But that roster is important for us to also make sure that you guys get paid. And I think, was it you that brought that to my attention?
What happened was, is like, I think when I rolled,
Yeah,
they just took me off.
they stopped paying
They
you.
just stopped paying me.
Is everyone else here getting paid your? Okay. And I can't remember what exactly this, I know it's
It
not
was like 2 months.
nearly worth what you guys do for us, but, yeah, so let me know if you're not getting paid. I really care about that, so. All right, and yeah, October 10th, we'll see you guys again.
I got one question, just for me understanding. What dictates the variance that still comes before us and versus a variance that gets kicked all the way up past us?
Yeah, so per our zoning ordinance, and, well, not all jurisdictions are required to have a planning and zoning commission per state law, but if you have one, they have to be a recommending body on a preliminary plat no matter what.
Gotcha.
So we can't just fast track all that like we do to like conditional uses and different things like that.
Right.
So you still have to recommend on the preliminary plat.
Preliminary plots.
So that's where we get this weird spot like, hey, look at this, but don't look at this other piece because you
Yeah.
can't do anything with it right now. So, yeah.
Okay, cool, thank you.
Any other questions? Good job making a motion in your first hearing that, you know, right out the
Jump
gates,
in.
so. Okay,
Meeting adjourned.
all right, thank you guys.
Thanks for your help, Leon.